You gave me time when no one gave me time of day. You looked deep inside while the rest of the world looked away. You smiled at me when there were just frowns everywhere. You gave me love when nobody gave me a prayer. That's why.
Hi folks, how are you today? Thank you again for joining us in another Lost on the Way Home show. Listen, we have a guest today. I want to explain. She is a nun. Well, she was a nun, and a former nun, and from the Catholic Church. And she has a testimony to tell us about how she encountered Jesus and how the Lord led her to understand the truths of the Word that she knows today. I want to welcome you to the show, Antoinette Sorbello.
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
right. Yes. Oh my goodness. So you have a wonderful story to tell the people. Something we don't hear too often, and I'm so glad that you are here to explain to us what happened when you were none. Yeah. So, starting from the beginning, I understand that you were born premature. Tell us just a little bit about that.
My mother was in a car accident carrying me, and I came out very much premature, 4 pounds, not expected to live, paralyzed, like on the left side was a change. My grandmother took care of me because according to them, she lives, she dies. And so she...
Is that what they said?
That's what my grandmother said. That's what they said.
Okay.
You know,
Just
that's how life was. And so she would take my left leg, which was paralyzed, and rub St. Anne's oil and pray over me. And they would feed me with an eyedropper. That's how it was.
And so how early were you born?
Oh, I don't know exactly how early.
But it was a couple of months early?
Oh,
or?
absolutely.
Yes. Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Had to be.
So you're like a miracle baby.
Yeah, and because the doctor was shocked, then I started to move my leg. And then I was, able to walk. I still have 2 different colored eyes and everything, at that point to show it. But that was really the kind of the beginning, I think.
And so you wound up having a real attachment to your grandparents.
Oh, absolutely. I'd sneak out of the house to go over there to be with my grandparents at any time. They were my everything. And I sense love more from them because I just kind of raised myself as a child. And that's probably why I turned to God first and Mary, quote, as my mother, because I needed a family. And because of that, I ended up wanting to serve God. And the only way I knew is a cloistered nun.
As a cloistered nun. So just going back a little bit to your parents, you didn't really feel attached to them? You didn't feel the love from them?
Not really. My father worked so much, so hard, God bless him, that I rarely ever saw him. I cried when anybody would say they had a father. And my mother was so involved with herself and her canaries, and that I kind of raised myself. And so because of that, I had to have parents. So I turned to the Catholic Church. I turned to God as my father, Mary's my mother, and I decided I didn't want to get married and raise children the way I was, which you make that decision when you're young. And I decided I wanted to become a nun and serve God, and that was it.
And so you came, at what age did you become a cloistered nun?
Well, let's see, I was about 20.
You were about 20. So for those of our viewers who don't understand what a cloistered nun actually is, just explain that.
Well, first of all, it's a monastic style life where you get up during the night to pray. We would get up for an hour to say the rosary and pray. You have lauds, matins, the same as a monk lived. It was perpetual fasting, whatever food is, and sometimes only bread on Fridays, and penance. You weren't allowed to speak. If I were to speak, I had to go to the Reverend Mother and get permission from her to speak, to say something. You did. It was continuous silence. Oh yes, rule of obedience. Everything was very, very strict. And you'd get up and you'd pray and you can meditate, or they would have lauds and prayers, and then they have an hour of recreation. But you had to get permission to speak.
Listen, I minister in the prison. This sounds like prison to me, though. Did you feel that at that moment? Or did you really believe in your heart that you were serving God?
I went there with that, and then I ended up finding myself that they are human, and you get hurt, and more really hurt deeply, because they had their friends that they only would be friends with or such, and you had the rule of obedience, such as might have been sick or something, and I didn't feel good, or I went to the Reverend Mother and I said I didn't sleep or something. She says, who doesn't? You know what I mean? You didn't always get that.
It wasn't the love of Christ.
Not all, no. There was one lay sister there who was the only one that would wash the chapel on her knees. And she was the one that was really like a guardian for me. Would be anything for me. She was a beautiful lady, but she was only a lay sister, and she's only allowed certain things.
My goodness. So what was happening? See, you're young, you're in your 20s.
Right.
You've chosen this celibate lifestyle, which I truly believe is a calling. I believe you don't just choose it because you feel like it.
No,
I know one person had said to me one time before, no, you're not going into like the priesthood is a choice, just like it's an occupation. Mm-hmm. It's like you choose to be a fireman, or you choose to be a doctor, or you choose to be a priest. But to live the life of a celibate, to me, is a true calling, because we are not meant to be alone. That's what the word says. We are not meant to be alone. So during this time, you're a young girl. What's happening with your relationship with the Lord? How is it progressing?
I think what switched it is that instead of trying to find that there is a God through faith, I didn't know the word faith, just to quote, believe. And that's what started the whole thing. Is there a way to prove there's a God other than my logistics? Therefore, there had to be this because a God created this. Can I find God otherwise? And when I was searching to prove there was a God, I began to question that there is a God. I became to such a point, that if you are who you are, get down here and let's have it out face to face. I mean it.
So
otherwise, why am I living?
Why am I living?
What
Because
reason
this
is
is
my
not living.
existence?
It wasn't living.
No.
So what? So
With all the suffering, I couldn't understand it. So, because of that, I that's when the charismatic thing came in.
Yeah, there was a charismatic movement
At that time.
Yeah.
And somebody who came in brought it in, and I wanted it so badly because I thought it would change my life. Because I had indirectly considered suicide.
Wow.
I really did. I had 3 methods. One was I could climb over the fence, but then I was under pontifical cloister, and that would be a disgrace to the family, and you go through the Pope and everything.
Climb over the fence. It's
Yeah,
like
I would.
prison. It's like escaping from
Exactly.
high maximum facility.
And then I literally was at the point when I'm in the kitchen cleaning, and says, well, I could kill myself, but then I have a white habit and it'd be kind of messy. And